So we're coming to the end of the letter. It's not really a letter, this one. This is more of an essay, sort of. It's I think the seventh or eighth class on this. It's a long, beautiful insight into the Sefiros. But to understand the Sefiros, we go and examine the Middos first in our character, in our animal soul. Then we went into not just the animal soul, but the inside of the Middos, not just the Chesed part, but the Ava part, not just Gevura, but the Yira. We went deep into the Middos. Now we started going in. Then we started going in last week into the Nefesh Elokis. How these seven Middos, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Malchus, are found in our relationship to Hashem. And now we're going to the core. What's interesting is the way I understand the last page of this letter, this idea, is that the Alter Rebbe almost fuses. Until now, he was talking more like a metaphor, and then an metaphor, mashal, analogy, and an analog. Now he's talking it all in one thing. He's merging now the essence of our Keiches HaNefesh, the powers of our soul, with the actual Sefiros. The goal was to understand the Sefiros. Now, just to understand, when we talk about the Sefiros, we could break it down, the Sefiros to us, of the following levels. Is our understanding of the Elyonim Tachtonim, the lower worlds, which we understand through a metaphor of our animal soul, our godly soul. From that, we understand the higher worlds, the much loftier worlds, and from that, we can understand the Sefiros. The Sefiros are God's essence himself being expressed. In other words, we're going now, the place we're going to get to is to understand God's essence or God's expression of these 10 Sefiros. We made a comment in the second class, I believe, and we spoke about what does it mean, Anochi, we learn from our bodies, and from our bodies, we understand God. But we said, understand that Avram says, Anochi, Ofar ve'efar, I only dust. And we gave a metaphor that just like in a tree, that if it's burnt, all you have is the dust, the ash. Now, the ash is the core elements of the four elements of earth, fire, wind, and water. The ash is the breakdown to that element. Now, the ash is nothing less and nothing more than the original tree without the added elements. But could you say the ash is the tree? No. The ash and the tree have nothing in common in their function, behavior, their looks, and their abilities. One is just ash, and one is the tree. The same thing when we get to the end of our metaphor, we finally get to say the metaphor perfectly, that is still only going to be like an ash, like dust, compared to what the idea really is. But we want to get as close as we can, that it's like to remember that all the expressions we're going to use on describing what you want to understand, the godliness, is all going to be in our own terms, in our own language. Like when someone says, I can grasp an idea, it doesn't mean I can actually get a physical grip on it. Like, could you palm a basketball? Could you grasp the idea? It means that I'm getting a sense of what we're talking about here. But we're talking about a very, very advanced, a very lofty and abstract idea, which is godliness. I say it's abstract because we function and live in the world of material. We can't picture things outside the material, but we'll do the best we can. And today we're going to the final step of this process. We have a few key ideas and chassidus that we can get into, and we'll start right away. We're on page 246. We're 3 lines from the bottom, the second word. Now that we explained in the previous class the 7 middos, the 7 emotive character traits of the godly soul, the Nefesh Elokis, now let's talk about where that comes from. Where does these godly, now the difference, just so you know, the difference between the godly emotion or a godly thought versus a animalistic thought. Animalistic thoughts by default are always about self, always about materialistic pursuits. If I have a random thought pop into my head from my subconscious or myself, you can be certain that it's not going to be about God. It's going to be about something selfish or self-interests. If it's ever something more than that, it's because I worked on myself. I made an effort to be godly, to be in tune to godliness. I made an effort. That means the natural, default, automatic pursuit of the animal soul's keiches, which means its intellect and its emotion, are all going to be for self-serving purposes or lower. The natural behavior of the godly soul is always for God. But our impulses don't come from there. Our impulses come from our animal soul. So just to understand, we're talking about godly soul, we're talking about something which is in tune naturally and automatically into God. It's a huge difference between the godly impulses, which we don't get naturally, those come through effort, and the animal impulses that come naturally. Famously, Shei Stav's line, if you want to know if you're a tzaddik, act on every impulse for the next 24 hours, without any holding back. If you didn't do any sins, only mitzvahs, you're pretty good. You're a tzaddik. Us, we have to constantly work. Don't say what we wanted to blurt out. Don't, do this. Don't think automatically the criticism of that person. We operate in a way we're always defending self, and part of defending self is knocking anyone else's qualities unless we're acting mature, thoughtful, not thoughtless. Okay. So he's like this. All these behaviors that come within this godly soul, this unbelievable nature to be in tune and to see everything in a godly light. He says, and the source and the root of all these godly behaviors, godly motives, comes from Chochmah, Binah, and Daas. And now we're going to go and re-examine these three words, Chochmah, Binah, and Daas, hopefully on a very relatable and understandable level, which also will give us a picture of Hashem's Sefiros. Now, just understand, we're going to say Chochmah. We're going to describe Chochmah without even trying. This is how it seems to me. This is how I understand the parak. Now, if I'm mistaken, I apologize. That Chochmah is automatically describing Chochmah in our godly soul and Chochmah in God's Sefiros. That means, what is Chochmah in our godly soul? We're going to explain, is the idea of sight or light unprocessed, which means when you see something for a quick moment, that means not that I'm understanding it, but I am shown something. Let's say someone shows me this picture up close, or better yet, will be this room. If it was a pitch black in here, and I'm sitting here and someone turned lights on for a second, turn it back off, I was just shown. I had no time to process it. That is being shown a picture. That's Chochmah. Binah is going to be, of course, we'll see in a minute, to process what I saw. What were you just shown? So within God's Sefiros, between the godly Sefiros, the Ten Sefiros, that's the idea of the the light that shines before the tzimtzum. In God's name, you want to talk about the letters of God's name? It's called the Yud. The Yud, because we know the difference between the Yud and the next letter, the Hey. The Yud is a dot, and the Hey is an expanded, in the width, all directions, a fully expanded concept. That means something which was developed, as we'll see in a moment. But Chochmah means something I was shown, something that shined, something that, like the example we'll see later he uses, or I think he used it here, like a lightning. A lightning, it was a quick, brief thing. It was pitch black, a lightning went on, the light was here, and the light's gone. That is the first stage. Another way to understand it, he'll say later in this chapter, is like the seed that is planted, or the seed that's given by the husband to the wife to create a child. And that seed, there's no expression. It's only when it moves into the next stage that you start developing all the ideas. But that first seed is Chochmah. It has everything that was given, but nothing expressed or unpacked. Okay. He says, the source and the root of all middos that come, that means all our behavior, the love and the fear, or the chesed and the gvura, comes from the Chochmah, Binah, and Daas. What is that? Now he starts. The Hainu. HaChochmah, let's start with Chochmah. Imakar haseichel hamasig es Hashem. It is the source, the earliest stages of seichel that understands God. V'chachmasai ugedulasai, and Hashem's Chochmah, and Hashem's greatness. Middos Hakodesh, and Hashem's holy attributes, with which He guides and leads and gives life force to all the upper and lower worlds. That means that initial light, let's call it Ein Sof, the light that Hashem gives to the world. That would be the Chochmah. That would be Chesed in the Middos. But the idea of Chochmah is just giving forth light into the world. So, and we use the word light because it's actually a difference to other things as Ru'iyah. In sight, you could do something you can't do in other. Like, if I want to hear a story, I got to listen for 40 minutes to the story. And if somebody wants to describe for me something they saw, I got to listen for 10 minutes. They went to the Grand Canyon. They saw a beautiful painting. They saw anything they saw will take them time. So it's a process of explaining it. Chochmah, which is sight, there's no process. I look at a picture, I saw it. Now you can start processing what you saw, but you actually see the entire thing at once. If it's a vision of a property, a house, a person, you see it in 1 second. After that, you have the ability to say, okay, here's what I saw, here's what it means to me, here's what I understand, etc. So Chochmah is given the metaphor of sight, because sight, you can see everything at once. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. What does that mean? It simply means to describe a picture, you need 1,000 words. You can show a picture, but then to go and unpack it and say what he saw is a few minutes to describe it. especially if you were shown a complex picture or a really cool picture. It doesn't have to be, for us, our sake here, the blink of a lightning speed. You could take 30 seconds, look at the picture. But those 30 seconds that you see in the picture is a world of what you could talk about afterwards. So it's used as an expression of a light. That's the first stage, the earliest stage of Chochmah, of wisdom, of the intellect, of the cognitive world, is the stage of Chochmah. And we spoke about it quite a bit. You want to take it into three examples. It's the flash of light, it's a dot, which is like a seed, or it's the Yud of Hashem's name. It's a dot, meaning it's a starting point and that comes not from me. That comes from in our seichel. Actually, we say it comes not from my functioning level of conscious thinking. It comes from the neshama that sends out ideas. That's why new ideas can come at the most random times. I wasn't even thinking about it. They say a lot of people who have tried to figure something out. Famously, it comes when the guy's in the bathtub. It comes when you're taking a walk. It comes and suddenly it pops in. Where'd it come from? It just came up from deep within your soul, because it wasn't an effort. It wasn't a process of getting there. It just shoots out from the essence of your soul. It's not you. It's much deeper than you. It's not your functioning you. Okay. That's Chochmah. Ubina, he has beinanus b'hasagazu. Binah now is taking that which you saw and processing it, unpack it. What did I see? What does it mean? What does it tell you? They say a famous story of Watson and Sherlock Holmes on a camping trip. And in the middle of the night, Sherlock Holmes turns to Watson and goes, "What do you see?" He says, "I see the heavens." He goes, "What does it tell you?" He says, "It tells you that tomorrow's going to be a windy day, and it's going to be," and he starts describing all the constellation of the stars. He says to Sherlock Holmes, what does it tell you? He says, "It tells me somebody stole our tent." Meaning, you can process things differently. Depends what you see. As we'll see later in the chapter, that's actually an important story, because how do you interpret what you saw? We're going to see everybody interprets things differently. It's what you see at that moment. But the next step is he's going to say three words here. Now, I'm going to just explain to how I saw Rabbi Steinsaltz explaining, because I saw different people explain this a little differently. Be'erech means the length. What does length here mean in a spiritual idea? It means drawing down the idea from above. It's the length, meaning from the distance of high, distance to low, drawing it down. Sometimes I have an idea, but I don't know how to apply it where I am now, because it's a spiritual idea. So Eirech means the ability to take an idea and draw it down to the world of my understanding. Let's say I'm a physicist, I'm a scientist, I'm a thinker, I'm a doctor. I take that idea and I understand. I draw it down to my world. V'reichev means the process of taking this idea and expanding it to other situations. You have a process, you have a solution that works, and you figure it out. You think I can apply it now to other cases. So it's now I can apply this thought process. I can now solve other problems. I could use this system, this idea to maybe resolve or understand or apply it, and to more layers, to more places. The emek is the third thing, the depth of it. Well, how deep does this idea go? What could we really dig out of this idea? How much can we get from this? So it's three different ways of when you get an idea to process it, to draw it down, to expand it, and then to go into the true depth of the idea. What's the deeper idea? You see this in Chassidus a lot. I love when I listen to a shir from a guy who really knows how to learn Chassidus. Lately, I'm doing it a lot with Rabbi Klein, Yossi Klein, and Asher Farkash, and they explain a mimer, and they go, "Let's go a little deeper." I'm like, "How do you guys figure this out? How did you get this?" And it's the deeper idea the Rabbi is just saying. It's a much deeper and much more profound insight into the mimer, but it could be understood on a simple level. No difference when you tell a child about the suffering of the Jewish people in Egypt, and then you can go to the depth of it, what went on, the details of it, how it went, what was the true suffering, what was the true idea of slavery, and you can go deeper and deeper and understand what is Pesach. Pesach could be a beautiful Seder. We got together and celebrate our exodus from Egypt. We could talk about what it means to us today. Why do we even bother talking? We could expand it, and that's what we're supposed to do with the Seder. Unpack it, the Binah, bring it down, expand it, and go deep into it. That's the idea of the Pesach Seder. He says, "Lahaven davar mitech davar," to understand one thing from another. Once you have a process or a method of thinking, you say, "1 second, with this we can understand other ideas that were perplexing us." Also, lahailad me'asaga zu telesa, and also to develop other things. So I saw one of the beautiful ideas brought down, and what this means is unbelievable. We a lot of times think when we take an idea and will now apply it to other ideas, maybe the other ideas are one step down. But the truth is, we can even go one step up with other ideas. What does that mean? He says, take for an example, there's two ways that Hashem relates to the world, Mamale and Seviv. Mamali is a level of godliness that modifies itself to be received in the world. So if you picture, for an example, electricity coming from the powerhouse in wherever it comes from in the power station, and it gets modified in order to come into our house. So to get into a 120 line or a 240 or or to go into your computer, to your phone, to modify the computer, the energy level, the electricity, the wattage, to be fitting to be received. If you didn't modify it, we'll just blow things apart. So the first thing is Mamali means how Hashem modifies his presentation. He doesn't modify himself. He modifies his presentation, how it comes into our world. It's the same exact electricity, the same exact energy. It's just being received in a much more unique way. That's called Mamali. But Soyev is outside of our ability. It's just blasting electricity and we can't relate to it. He says, understanding something else means if I understand the parameters of electricity that comes into my world, I can extrapolate from that. Imagine what's outside of our house. Imagine the energy that's coming outside of our house, how much is there. And imagine that's enough to power an entire city. And you can start imagining, meaning from this which I have, from my knowledge of Mamali, I can understand Seviv. It's like we say, from the power of the sun, from the power of the heat of the sun that comes into us standing outside and getting a burn, and you get really a bad burn. Imagine we're 83 million miles away. Imagine if you went closer. Meaning, I don't have the sun here. I only have the sunlight. But if you think into it, you can start saying, wow, that's pretty amazing how powerful the sun is. And it's that far away, and it's reaching me, etc. You think about, standing a distance from a fireplace, how far can you go and feel it? This far away, a mile away, 2 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles, a million miles, you start realizing the power of the source. That's called Davar Matech. I'm learning something and applying it to something else. That's how Binah works. I can start understanding more and more ideas of godliness, of Hashem. If I see the little bit that we can relate to and see and absorb, imagine how much I'm not getting. Okay. Then it's like this. And to get its children. What are the children? We spoke about it in the beginning of Tanya. The children of Chochmah and Binah. Chochmah and Binah, we know also called Avei, mother and father, or father and mother. Their children are the 7 Middos. There's different Middos that we have. Those are the children. Ushare Middos, Shem Middos Avei, sorry, I said that. Shem Middos Avei, that is the Middos of Avei, which are the two primary in everything you have. Like just you have in colors, you have, 3 or how many primary colors there are. Then you have all the colors that come out of that. So you have also in the Sefiros, you have 2 primary Sefiros, Av and Yira, and everything else. You have the triangles. It's either a merging of those two, or it's the descendants of those two. That means everything starts from Av and Yira. By the way, why does he say Av and Yira? Why doesn't he say Chesed and Gevurah? Back to our original point. When you're starting something, you start from the Pnimius. You start from the inside. Remember, Chesed and Gevurah are the external Sefiros. The internal, the Pnimius is Av and Yira. So you mentioned here Av and Yira to tell you this is how the process starts. It starts from the inside, and then it grows, because first you have a love, and then that love brings to Chesed. First you have a Yira, and that Yira comes to Gevurah. So when he's talking about process, he starts with the process first that's born is love, and that develops into Chesed, is born Yira, and that develops into Gevurah. Ushar and Middos, Hanildes, Benefesh, Alekis, and all the other Middos that are born, meaning are created from these thoughts, from the cognitive abilities, and the godly soul, Hamaskeles, Umisbainenes, Begdulas Hashem. And this is very key. The way you have in the world of Sfira, in the world of Middos and the Nefesh Alekis come in a process. First comes thinking, then comes the emotions. In the beginning of the Tanya, we introduced Nefesh Alekis. We first spoke about the Chochmah Binah Daas, then we spoke about Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, etc. When we spoke about the animal soul, first we spoke about the Middos, then we spoke about the Seichel. Why? Because in a healthy, functioning spiritual person, when I say spiritual, I mean godly. Spiritual is not the right word. Godly person, he thinks and then he does. He thinks about stuff and that creates feelings. Meaning everything you do is generated by my intentional process. I thought about how much this person's nice to me and I was kind to him. I thought about God and I became, I love him. In the world of animals, or in the world of Nefesh Bahamis, the animal soul, it's just the opposite. I first love somebody, then I come up with reasons why I don't like someone. I come up with reasons afterwards. Meaning, I follow my impulses and I justify them. The reasons come later. So in a godly process, the seichel, and that processes into the Middos. And it's not just enough to have the seichel that's there. that seichel now has to be meditated on. That's machshava, which means you have the seichel. That seichel goes from a stage of pure cognitive, let's say projection or nucleus of it. And then when you think about it, you develop it. So if I think for 15 minutes about an idea, I'm engaging my machshava, I will create the most powerful feelings. Whether it's about how dangerous something is, how sad something is. If you think about, for example, how much you're missing a wedding, it can put you into a very melancholy mood. Think about exciting as getting married, it put you in a happy mood. You think about, God forbid, there's a person yesterday who got hurt, it can put you into down mood. Why? What I think about creates my emotions in the natural function of how Hashem made us. But when we go through that process, that's usually functioning with the godly soul. Yeah. Got a question? Okay.
Processing.
What? Processing. Okay. Because to Hashem's greatness is no end. But now we're going to see something amazing. We're going to explain why in a moment. But here's the coolest part. When you think about the greatness of Hashem, that is neutral in what type of emotion it's going to bring. Your thinking about the greatness of Hashem could develop into a couple possibilities. Let's say two mainly. It could develop into love, or it could develop into awe. I don't like the word fear. It's not the right word here. Let's call a year of awe. What you're gonna develop will depend on you, your situation, what's going on in your life, and a lot of factors, but mainly your personality and what interests you. So in other words, he says, you're thinking about the greatness of Hashem. You can think about, for an example, the power of, let's take a parent, someone you love as a parent. You think about the awesomeness or the greatness of a parent, you could develop either a tremendous awe for your parent, you know what? I got to work harder to respect him, or you could develop the tremendous love for the person. I'm so fortunate. I love this. What you're going to develop will depend on your process and on your moment and what you're thinking about, which means, will this moment bring you to awe or will it bring you to love will depend on you right now. But both choices of love, ava, or yira come from the same experience, the greatness of God. I, from his greatness, can come to be, I don't want to say afraid, but awe, blown away, or I just wish I could do more things to be connected to him, because that's one truth. And how it expresses itself, we'll see in a moment, depends on Daas, how you internalize it. No difference why certain foods, or let's say even better than that, certain people who are very powerful, who are maybe presidents or governors or other things, could evoke in somebody two opposite things. I hate the guy, I love the guy. It's not because I know more or less about him. Everyone knows the same information about the guy. So why do you have that feelings? It's because what I see as priority, what's important to me, that's already me getting mixed into it. So somebody's power as a king or a president or a leader will affect you based on your personal story. But the source is the same, the person's greatness. He says, through your godly soul thinking about Hashem, you can have an incredible fear, incredible awe, which is now the lower level, which is malchus. We're going to see here, we're going to talk about four levels. Higher level of fear, lower level of fear, or yira. Higher level of love, lower level of love. I'll explain the higher one first of fear, and then we'll get to love in a minute. When you are afraid or in awe of someone, there's two possibilities what you're really, truly afraid of. You can be afraid of the person's ability to hurt, to do something to you, or you could be afraid of the person themselves. It's two totally different things. So for an example, if you're afraid of you're living in Russia, let's take that example, and you see a police officer and you're afraid. You're not really afraid of him. He's nobody. What are you afraid of? His ability to put you in jail, arrest you, shoot you, hurt you, etc., interrogate you, arrest your family, God forbid. That means that all that you have is not really about him. It's about details of what he can do. But when you stand, let's say you lived in the olden days when there was a true king, you could stand in front of the king and be in awe of the king himself. Today, outside of Chabad or outside of Hasidim, you'll have to find a really big baseball or football star, basketball star to get the message to a kid. For us, we have an example of a Rebbe. When someone says, I'm in awe, I'm afraid to go into Yechidus, I'm not afraid of the Rebbe. It's the awe of this person's greatness. It's just out of my league. It's so huge, so big, so grand. I lose myself. I lose my ability. If you're going in for your fitness or you're going by to get dollars, people felt awe. Where did that come from? I'm not afraid of what he can do. I'm not in awe of what might happen. It's just the person itself. In other words, Yuda Tata, low-level fear, is I'm afraid of Hashem or in awe of Hashem. His powerful mountain, his raging storms, the ability to bring plagues to the world. It's all things, details that Hashem could do. A higher level of awe is just Hashem himself, the power and awe of who he is. That's Yirat Tata and Yirat. Let's see this inside. He says, so now how this affects you, could affect you. Let's go back one line. We'll back up 2 lines. Based on the meditation of the godly soul, but a massive of fachad, fear and awe could go upon you, dread. She yiratata with the level of fear. She bechinas malchus. It's called why malchus? Malchus is the world of action. If you want to talk about all the Middos, malchus is action. When you're afraid of somebody because of their details, what the effect is, like a king, a master, a boss, you're a slave of somebody. The effect is not my feelings to him. My bottom line is, what's the effect on me? I'll clean my room. I'll be honest. I'm not going to speed because the cops are coming. All my behavior is going to be completely a response to the king, how I'm going to function. So Malchus represents function, action. So all my behavior in Yirat Tata is function related. It's not like I'm going to think about it when I get home. Wow, that guy was so amazing. He's so powerful. No. Let's hide our money. Let's have tickets to escape town. Let's not speed. It's all behaviors we're going to do because Yirat Tata, only it's his actions affects my actions. I might be scared, but I'm more scared because of what he can do. Because once I'm in the safe zone, I'm not going to be scared anymore. Then there's a much higher level of awe. Not that I'm afraid of things happening to me. I'm just in awe of the person. We call it also Yiras Beisha. The second word we use. I'm almost like in shame in front of him. What's a shame? I'm not embarrassed of something. It's a art that's lost in the generation that's my age and down. Means it used to be when someone met or spoke to their father, when someone spoke to a principal of a school, when someone spoke to a governor, you felt almost like almost shy. Why? This guy is so big. Today, kids call the father by the first name, and kids, you could talk about the president and the rabbi. I'll get the rabbi later. But bottom line is the whole idea of boishes, of feeling a shyness, a shameness in front of greatness is lost. Now they don't know, no one knows what that means. That was a normal behavior back growing up in front of the principal of the school. If you met your college professor at a dinner, you're almost like ashamed. Why? The guy's like this big guy. He's a big professor. He's like, if you have awe for the person and respect, it creates within you a shy shameness. Not shame I did something wrong. Mm-hmm. Shame which I feel lacking and undressed, so to speak. I don't. Yeah, it's a bittul. It's I feel under the word I'm looking for. I can't think of it.
In here it says bashfulness.
Bashfulness, but there's a word that there's a word I'm looking for. It's called not good enough. It's a certain word. Okay, yeah. So that's Yirei law. Now you have another thing. Again, you have in love. You have 2 types of love. Ava Rabba means I love. Ava Zutta means I love. One's a big love. What's a small love? What's the difference? Do I love the person for what the person does, or what the person is, and what the person, meaning other details? Can I explain it? When you're talking Ava Zutta, low level love, I can give a reason for my love. I love the person because they're so nice, they're so kind, they're so giving, they're so understanding. It's all reasons. Avarab is I just love the person, and what's the result of that? I just want to be near them. I want to be one with them. When it comes to Hashem, it's not like you love Hashem because he's the king and because he makes it rain and he gives us life and he makes me, gave me my friends and my abilities. I love Hashem. I want to lose myself in him. It's like, again, the difference between immature love of a young couple. Why do you love him? Oh, he's so nice. He makes me complete. You know why you love the person when you're 90 years old, or 80 years old, or 60 years old? I don't know. I could tell you, I really don't. Still with you? I don't have a reason, but I tell you something, it's my world. It's my life. Why? I can't be without them. Because I become part, not for a reason. All the reasons why I met them in the first place are gone. They're young, handsome, dashing, good dancer. They used to sing, So why do you love the person's lying in bed most of the day or not well? It's a love that's beyond a reason. So Ava Zutta means I love the person for a reason. It doesn't mean it's a selfish reason. It doesn't have to be because they're good to me. It's because they're outstanding, because they're smart, because they're articulate, because they're giving, because but it's a reason. But you love them for themselves. That's like two doves. It says sitting on the love of two doves. Yanasi. We say about Hashem is they just like to sit near each other on the porch. You see doves? They're enjoying each other's company. Why? What are you doing? You haven't even gone out for a week. I just love sitting next to them. It's a love which is I just want to be with the person. That's Ava Rabba. Okay. The same thing that was all talking about Ava and Yid of the Panemius. And the same thing would be true. What the result would be of thinking about the grace of Hashem, I will now go do one chesed. I will now go and do gevura. I will do all these behaviors. Okay. But all of these things are worthless without das. Das means it means something to me. We spoke about this das. I'm not going to go into it at length now because we spoke many times. But das basically means it means something to me. Das literally means connection. We use das to describe the Torah intimacy between a man and a woman. Das means a true oneness between an idea and the person. The Rebbe explains it in the Sikha. He said many times the story. The guy, his father died. He received a letter. The idea of das means this thought means something to me. You could have someone that has a deep idea. He knows a lot, but it doesn't affect me. Why? Because it means nothing to me. I don't know, it means something to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. You can have something happen. I'll give you a simple example. Two people can watch the news. Somebody in this room can watch the news, and somebody in down from somewhere in Washington can watch the news, and they hear what happened in Israel. One person is affected by it. One person hears that Iran's trying to get a bomb, and they go, wow, that's crazy. Another person says, it's going to be Israel. They're getting close to a bomb. Israel. What's the difference? Israel matters to me, and therefore the information related to it affects me. So all of the sabbatiness that you're going to have is completely dependent on das, not just das. Das will determine how it affects me. If it's going to give me a feeling of love, or it's going to give me a feeling of fear. It's going to give me a feeling of intense yearning, or it's going to feel intense to go out and do something. All depends how. We all have priorities and how we see the world and what the reaction is. Someone hears news going on. Someone hears, for an example, a very simple example. Someone hears that, God forbid, someone is in a car accident. God forbid. One person will to visit them. One person will open and say to them. One person will call up the kids of the person and say, by the way, heard about your dad. I want you to know we're here. Why are they all acting differently? Because each person is driven by a certain either past experience or personality trait. What touches them? Some people care about their family. Some people care about the person that needs prayer. Some people go make the meals. Why do you all do the same exact thing? Everyone should have gone and cooked food. No, because everyone's das is different. We internalize experience differently. We can all see and hear the same story and all respond, maybe even the same world. We're all going to hear, but how we respond is going to be based on our situation. So the das is key in two aspects. Number one, how it engages us, and number two, that it engages us. But in that itself, we're going to see there's two types of das. So let's see this here inside. It's the bonding, the connection of the soul to this thought, this intellectual idea that we're discussing here. He's understanding something about the greatness of Hashem. Because, and for one of these, and what's going to happen is, this idea is going to trigger one of your middos. It's either going to trigger your chesed, your gevura, your teferes, your netzach. It's like some people, like they say, fight or flight. How do you decide? Well, depends. Some people's reaction when they see you watch these videos, they showed us on the security, some people see emergency, they run away. Some people run to go help. Why? It's nature, my personality, my training, my upbringing, how I respond to a crisis. Do I run and hide? Do I go and help? Do I call for help? What do you do? So every person is going to be affected by the information that you get. In this case, the greatness of Hashem is going to cause you to go and suddenly have awe for Hashem. Is going to cause you to go and sing a song about Hashem's greatness, love Hashem, yearn for Hashem. All these things will depend on the das, how I internalize it. But it needs das. How do we know? If you don't think about it, even for one moment from this hasaga, if you stop thinking about it a second, you can stop worrying about it. You can have a person who sincerely, really cares about that car accident that happened. And you're actually affected by it and it hurts you. But then you get distracted. You think about something else and you could be laughing at a joke or talking. Doesn't mean you don't care anymore. No. It means you're not thinking about it. And now, unfortunately, when it's real person, it can't get out of your mind. If God forbid it's your own, it should never happen. But somebody's own family, it's always on their mind, always das, and 24/7, they can't get out of their head. But for most people, when you hear information, It happens to be that either 10 minutes, 50 minutes, or a day later, you could not think about it and be in a different mood. The fact that you're not thinking about it is not having a das. The information is there. The intellectual information is there. If someone asks you questions, you know exactly what happened in the accident, who's hurt, who's injured, etc. But it's not affecting you because you're not having the das activated. So it's not. He doesn't say kibehesach haseichel. He doesn't say kibehesach chochmah. Behesach adas. If you stop connecting to it, your emotion can go away. And in a positive way, when someone has a fear, when someone has a concern, the Rebbe told them, don't think about it. What do you mean? The problem goes away? No, but it stops affecting you negatively. I know when I was really dealing with my fear of heights, I remember if I would talk to someone at a place, I forgot about it. I wasn't afraid. I'm still up there. I wasn't thinking about it. So thinking, I don't just mean thinking, I mean das. Connecting to it is what creates the emotion. The second you stop, mistalekes gamkein hamidah hanildim mimenu. And as soon as you stop thinking about it, connecting to it, that midah will go away. That's why you have to always, before davening, think about certain things and get into a zone to reawaken those feelings. May hagili benefesh, it goes from the revealed state in your soul. El alahelim liyos blabekayach lerepeil. It goes to be in a potential state, not in the actual state. And that's why we call intimacy with the man and woman, but we call it Daas. This is, we'll come to the last part of the thing right now. It's just about the end. And this is the idea of Das Elyon. What's Das Elyon? So we have in general two types of Das that we talk about. 90% of the time when we talk in Chassidus, when we say Das, we mean the connection between Seichel and Middos. My intellect affects my emotions. Intellect, you see, intellect by definition is disconnected from me. I am not my intellect. As a matter of fact, I can change my mind. I can change how I think about something, what I agree on, what I don't, if I could separate from my emotions. So the information to know about something, if I'm not emotionally involved, I can change my opinion. It's not me, it's information. It was true before I knew it and true afterwards. Let's say it's true that H2O was water. Is that water? Yeah, H2O is water. I don't know how that works, but it's a fact. If I agree with it, it's true. It's true. If I don't agree with it, it's still true. Meaning it has nothing to do with me. But if I like brownies or like the dark part of the chicken, the light part of the chicken, that is me. That is my identity. So emotions, meaning what I like and don't like and how I feel about things, why I like that person, why I don't, has nothing to do so much with what that person is in his own world. It's how I interact with that person. And the proof is there can be people that I don't like who are nice people and people who I do like who are not nice people. Why? Because I have chosen or experienced or felt a certain way to interact with them. It doesn't change the facts if they're a nice person or not a nice person. Information has nothing to do with me. Emotions has everything to do with me. Now, for the information to affect me, there has to be a connection because it's something outside of me that has to affect me. So if I want information that's out there to have an effect on me, a little example would be you're reading a court case and it has no connection to me. I'm not interested in it. Someone tells you, by the way, this is about your son. This is about your brother. Ooh, something I'm connected to. What happened? That information that has nothing to do with me became part of me because it has das. It has a connection. So usually when we talk about das between intellect and emotion. But that's called das tachten. There's a much higher das, which is actually much more critical, much more important. That's a das between Chochmah and Binah. See, Chochmah has nothing to do with me. It pops into my head like a flash. Binah has everything to do with me. I got to unpack it. I got to understand it. I got to figure it out. Meaning Binah is all about me understanding the thing, even though, yes, it's an intellectual idea, so it's not me personally, but my brain got to get involved. I got to understand it. Someone shows you the solution to a riddle. That's the Chochmah. Now go and figure out the riddle. You have the key. The key.
What can happen to you if you're not in that certain thing that it can't just come. Why would it pop into your mind?
You're right. Chochmah pops into the mind of people that have a connection to it. So you can elicit through for example, if I'm not involved in trying to figure out a physicist's question, I'm never going to have the answer pop into my head. But a physicist will have the answer pop into his head. Right. So it's his involvement in it that in the first place created in his deep soul the awakening of that. But at the end of the day, what popped into his head, he hasn't unpacked it yet. An idea comes into your head, you could lose it because it's not yours. You tell someone, oh, I just thought of something. And they start asking you a question. No, don't ask me. I got to back to that thought in a second. I could lose it. Meaning it's not me. Yes, it came from with me. That's why you'll have different ideas pop into your head than I do. So you're right. It is related to your nefesh. It's related to your identity, but not that it's your thought. The thought is not yours until you unpack it and develop it. See, but you're right. when we say yours and mine, there's different layers. So it's yours because it's your type of thought, and it's in your world of involvement, and it's something that you could benefit or digest or unpack. But it's not so when it comes to seichel. You're already unpacking it. Binah. Sorry, Binah. So Binah means I take that idea. So Daas has to exist between Chochmah and Binah too, and that's more critical because the difference is a seichel I won't lose if I don't attach it to a midah. A Chochmah you will. If Chochmah, it's a seed that you plant and is not translated into growth, the seed lost. Why? Because it doesn't have an enduringness on its own. It doesn't last. So the Chochmah to Binah Daas is much more critical because that can't exist at all without tapping right away into Binah. This is all the idea of process of creation that we're talking about in this series too. Now to finish off the chapter, this is called Daas Tachtein. And that is the seichel that comes and spreads from Chochmah and Binah into the Middos to give them life and to make them exist. He says, there's another higher level of Das, which is Bechinas Eskash with the Chibur Mokar Seichel Oymek Hamusag Shehu Kenekuda Ukabarik Hamavrik Al Sichlei. And this idea is the connection that takes place between the origin, the depth, the source of the idea, which comes like a dot. He says, "Can like a dot, or like a lightning onto a seichel to sheispashit lamata to spread lamata into bina. The yavi emek hamusag the de havana, and this depth should be able to come into his understanding through bina. Archavas habir to understand the idea and have it explained. Ba'erech v'rechev shebechinas bina hanikras v'cheves anar." And that's the idea of Binah, which is called like the well springs that expand. But the last 3 words is very interesting. He says, like will be explained in its place. And the Rebbe says he's not sure where Alter is referring to, because we haven't found yet where he talks about this. But he says that it will be explained. Bottom line is this concludes one of the most fascinating insights into this the 10 Iggeres Hanefesh.